What is scary? Scary is something that invokes fear. This could be running upstairs from the dark basement. It could be running into a coyote in the woods at night. Or maybe it's just your own reflection that scares you. It scares me, but one thing is for certain. The Callisto Protocol is not scary. Here's why. The game starts off with a character named Jacob Lee, and all you get to relate with him is him hating his job. Then 10 minutes later, we wake up to a prison in ruins. The player never gets to see what it looks like before the outbreak, so we don't really feel the destruction that was caused. We know there was carnage, but we can never grasp it as well as we would if we saw what it looked like before, especially if it's in an unfamiliar place far in the future on a different planet. That's why war photos invoke feelings of sadness, because you know what the place looked like before. It was turned into a living hell. Second, the road never really feels dangerous. The fact that the main character just sleeps through the chaos reinforces this. Third, the main character survives a ship crash at the start of the game without a scratch, while his best friend right beside him has his face melted off. Not to mention Danny, the person who caused the ship to crash, was in the back of the ship holding onto a railing when she would have most definitely died. Just makes the characters feel like they're in less of a danger. I'm sure you know where I'm heading with this if you watched reviews on this game. The combat is not scary. In fact, it's the total opposite. It makes the biophages look like those high school bullies that seem tough, but then get rocked by the tiniest man known to mankind. And that's because the main component of the combat is your melee weapon, the stun baton, and it doesn't take much skill to use it. All you have to do is dodge an enemy's attacks 3 times, then attack them 3 times. Rinse and repeat. You may then say, "Oh, but dodging is hard." And if that's true, then don't worry. The dodging in this game isn't time-based. All you have to do is hold left stick or right stick. And if you can't do that, then don't worry. They even have a setting for automatic dodging. And if you can't do that, then you just got a diagnosis. The fact that you have to be up close with an enemy at all makes them not scary. There's a reason why horror games don't make you get up close to the enemies, and that's because it simply makes them less scary and more familiar. The game knows this, so they try to throw you up against multiple enemies, but those are easy to kill too, because you could just throw one enemy away with the force, then focus on the other enemy that is closer. Rinse and repeat. Again, the game also has guns, which aren't really that useful unless you just want to keep doing endless combos on an enemy, which makes them even less scary, or when you have to fight the 2-head boss 4 times. But then sometimes you have so much ammo that it just makes the enemies even less scary because you can just keep shooting them without them even getting close to you. Combat is just way too easy, and it's not scary because of that. The game makes me look at enemies as a roadblock rather than an actual danger. Do you think zombies are scary? Because I don't. Especially not after fighting them for the 100th time in other games. But at least those games make the zombies look scary. But this game makes almost all of them move and look the way that humans do, which isn't scary. The only real difference I can see is the mushrooms on them, besides 3 of the enemy types. Horror games try to add a level of familiarity to monsters, but not too much because the goal is to create an uncanny feeling. Horror games other times will go all out on the unfamiliar, like Cthulhu, but they never make the monsters act like something we are familiar with. That's why jerky and quick movement can scare people. It's because it's something the player never sees, so they are unfamiliar with it. Sadly, the Callisto Protocol doesn't understand this because once you become familiar with one enemy, then you pretty much become familiar with them all. This game claims to have 10 to 11 different enemy types. There really is only 5. Got the basic zombie but bigger with more health, the basic blind zombie, the basic zombie that mutates into the same thing but with pointier arms and does more damage with more health. You then got the long neck and the larvae monsters whose only purpose is to annoy the shit out of you and take off tiny bits of your health with you being unable to do anything about it. The worst part is they are both killed the exact same way, and that's by spamming a button. Then there's the crawlers, which can either be basic zombies or zombies that explode, and they're called crawlers because they crawl. Then there's the spitter and big mouth, who actually act different from the rest. The spitter will attack you from afar by spitting projectile acid, while the big mouth is a spider-looking monster that turns invisible, and it will try and sneak up on you, which I appreciate since it shows that the devs try to create tension with it, But sadly, these monsters can be dealt the exact same way as the rest. Dodge 3 times, then smack 3 times. I shouldn't be looking for these monsters. I should be scared of them. I should be trying to avoid them. But not in this game. I go out actively searching for them because I know they're not scary or hard to beat. I found this game annoying me more than it scared me. Every time we met up with a character, we would then fall down right after. I understand having to separate the player from the characters, but they could have at least been creative about it. Also, there's 2 chapters of the game that mainly consist of the blind enemies, and I got to say, those were the worst and most boring parts of the game. All you have to do is crouch and do sneak attacks on the blind enemies. It's so easy. Not to mention that the blind enemies seem deaf as well. You would think that being blind would enhance your hearing, but not to these guys. My final complaint is the mini-boss and the main boss. I find it ridiculous how the main boss is easier to beat than the mini-boss. I find it even more ridiculous when the mini-boss is repeated 4 different times within 3 hours. I think its only purpose was to drain the player's ammo, so the end chapter was more difficult for those who didn't have a left thumb to dodge with. The mini-boss is called Two Head, and it was cool the first time finding it, but 4 different times is way too much. Then there's the Alpha, the main boss, the unstoppable force of nature. Nope, all you have to do is dodge 5 times, and then attack him 5 times. Ooh, so creative. But once you beat him in his first stage, he then mutates into a bigger monster with crawlers that explode. Oh my god. So all you have to do is kill the crawlers, then shoot his head. That's it. Not to mention that he looks like some random guy that just got out of the gym. So I guess the developer's worst fear is a gym bro.